This is a long one. If you consider apples to apples, Attorney Storms, you had Officer Noor here in Hennepin County. He shot a white woman, Justine Diamond. Apparently it was in a dark alley. He shot and killed her. He showed great remorse. Said it was an accident, did not mean it. He was charged with third-degree murder and convicted of third-degree murder and sentenced to 12 and a half years. Now present before us, we have Officer Potter, a white police officer, kills an unarmed black man, and she's charged with second-degree manslaughter. Whereas we understand that if convicted, she can get between 4 and 10 years. All this family is striving for is to get full accountability, to get equal justice, nothing more or nothing less. This family know that really, as Aubrey and Katie talked to Attorney Storms and I about what is the most time she could get, what are the highest charges after they met with the district attorney. They concluded that really there's no justice for them, because justice would mean Daunte not being killed. So the only thing they can ask for, Stephante, is full accountability. As Naisha so eloquently stated, accountability to the highest level. That's all they can ask for. That's all they can request. That's all they can demand. And so they will do that because Daunte Wright life mattered. You think about Officer Orr and his circumstances, and then you think about Officer Potter and the circumstances of her killing Daunte Wright. And the illustration is just so graphic. You didn't have all of this. You did not have all of this in Officer Noor's situation. It was daylight. You see a gun, a taser, a Glock 17, and a taser. So it's very difficult for this family to accept that this is an accident when you have a veteran who's been on the police force for 26 years. And we still believe that it was over-policing. It was an excessive use of force because we have a propensity in America to over-police marginalized minorities, especially black men. And again, we're trying to compare apples to apples. If you go to my Instagram page, and people have been doing it a lot, at Attorney Crump, we have 3 videos of young white men not only resisting the police, but they are assaulting and battering the police. They have weapons. They reach for a gun. And yet, the police still don't shoot those young white men. In fact, in some of the videos, the police actually retreat They run from the white men. So why is it in every instance that the police engage in the most excessive force with black people? Think about what we just witnessed in Virginia with the Army veteran. Most of our white brothers and sisters who get pulled over by the police, they give them a ticket. And then they go on their way. But for some reason, marginalized minorities are made to submit. I don't know what it is in the mentality of police officers that they want black people to submit to their will. When you think about George Floyd, it was an alleged $20 bill, counterfeit. They could have given him a ticket for that. It was at most a misdemeanor. They don't even know. They didn't even ask them, well, it's alleged this is a counterfeit bill. Did you know it was a counterfeit? They didn't ask them that. You heard the cup food employee say, I don't even think he knew that it was a counterfeit. They could have asked George Floyd, do you have the money to pay for it? But no, he didn't get the benefit of consideration, the benefit of professionalism, the benefit of the courtesy, the benefit of the de-escalation that we see so often with white American citizens. He didn't even get the benefit of humanity. And if you ever want to know the difference, just go back and look at the white nationalists attacking the citadel of our democracy on January 6, 2021. So it's not about do they know how to de-escalate. The question is, why don't they de-escalate when it's Daunte Wrights? Why don't they de-escalate when it's George Floyd? Why don't they de-escalate when it's so many black people who are unarmed? And so we're here to answer those questions. And finally, we ask that you keep the family in prayer, all his family. Keep little Daunte Jr. in prayer as they get ready to go through one of the darkest chapters of their life. Literally, after they leave this press conference, they're going to the funeral home to start to make the arrangements to give Daunte the respect in his homegrown services that he did not get from the police officer. You're going to hear, you want to say something? You'll hear from my co-counsel attorney Jeff Storms before we hear from Daunte Wrights' parents. Attorney Jeff Storms is a great attorney here in Minnesota who I've been blessed to work with also in representing the family of George Floyd. He is one of the best lawyers I've ever had the honor of working with. Thank you so much, Jeff.
I've had, I think, what I might refer to as the unfortunate privilege to work with a family I love and the family of David Smith, who died here in Minneapolis. And Mr. Smith's family did not receive equality. They did not get their day in court for a criminal trial with respect to the officers. Now I've had the opportunity, and again, a privilege, but one I wish we didn't have, to stand next to great families in the Floyd family and the Wright family, and incredible attorneys like Mr. Crump and Mr. Romanucci. And now we've seen two families who are getting some justice. They're getting criminal charges. They're getting a day in court. But we shouldn't be patting ourselves on the back for baby steps towards equality. This isn't the result of enlightenment when you think about the history in our city. The Damon case confirmed what the black community, what our black brothers and sisters always knew. If a black officer killed a white person, they'd be charged. And so the hand of the city, the hands of the county were forced. They now must give at least some level of equality when the situation is reversed. So even though we can take some small comfort in that baby step towards equality, it doesn't bring Daunte back, it doesn't bring George back, and it's of little comfort to many families, like the family of David Smith, who did not get that opportunity. Thank you.
Thank you, Jeff. Thank you, Jeff. Very well said, Attorney Storms. This is very emotional for them, his parents, Daunte Wright's parents. Miss Katie Wright and Mr. Arby Wright will now address you briefly.
The last few days, everybody has asked me what we want. What do we want to see happen? And everybody keeps saying justice. But unfortunately, there's never going to be justice for us. The justice would bring our son home to us, knocking on the door with his big smile, coming in the house, sitting down eating dinner with us, going out to lunch, playing with his 1-year-old, almost 2-year-old son, giving him a kiss before he walks out the door. So justice isn't even a word to me. I do want accountability, 100% accountability. Like my sister said, the highest accountability. But even then, when that happens, if that even happens, we're still going to bury our son. We're still never going to be able to see our baby boy that we're never going to have again. So when people say justice, I just shake my head. Do you want to say something?
Thank you, Katie. Mr. Wright is going to defer to his sister, Naisha, to speak on his behalf. And she has demonstrated with raw emotion the pain and the agony that this family deal with, that many families deal with. Stephante experienced it with his brother, and Trayvon's mother experienced it with the loss of Trayvon. And these families, to us, it's a case, it's a cause, it's a hashtag. To them, this is their blood. And it hurts. It hurts really bad. So, please give the charity of your undivided attention to a young woman who is speaking for her family and for her nephew, Miss Naisha Wright. Take your time.
I want everybody to sit here and imagine you having to bury your child that somebody just murdered. We all know when our children are born, we're so proud. Fathers, they want their baby boys. Us moms, we get that love from our sons. They don't get that anymore. Justice, what is justice? Do we get to see Daunte smile? We don't get to see that. Do we get to hear Daunte joke again? We don't get to hear that. The highest accountability, I know the highest is going to be being judged by God. But can we get a conviction?
Can we?
Can we get something? Manslaughter? Y'all see the difference? This is a taser. This is a taser. But no, my nephew was killed with this, a Glock. These two are hurting. Our family is hurting. Our blood has been spilled. And all we ask for is to please just keep getting his name out there. And please help us to go ahead and get something done, a conviction, something. And if this was Potts, I'm not even going to call her officer. Because at this pot or whatever, if it was her child, if someone killed her child, we wouldn't even be having all this press conference. No, none of this. Because whoever that would be under the jail again. Can we get that same thing? I don't care what's said, what my nephew may have done, whatever it is. Again, he was ours. He was a good boy. He was ours. We want the same conviction that anybody else of our race, or even outside of our race, what they want to call a minority, would get. Not a pat on the back. Unfortunately, my nephew didn't get a drive to go to Burger King to get something. He didn't even kill nobody. It's so much I want to say, but because we're in the house of the Lord, and I pray all day and I pray every day, my brother and my sister need this woman to be convicted. If we can have life, we want life. We got to go life without him. We got to go life without him.
Thank you, Naisha. You can see how emotional this is. But Naisha asked me when we were talking earlier if Officer Potter had children. I didn't know the answer. But she then said, well, if a police officer did Officer Potter child like they did her nephew, what would America demand? It's a fair question, America. What would you demand? Well, whatever you would demand for her child, then why shouldn't Katie and Aubrey be able to get the same? Isn't that what equal justice under the law means? And Aisha raised another profound example. You have these young white men. She was talking about Dylan Roof in a church similar to this, shot 9 black people. The police followed him across state lines. And when they apprehended him, they didn't shoot him in the back jail. They didn't kill him. They apprehended him alive, and they gave him so much consideration that they took him to Burger King to get a burger and fries, because they, for whatever reason, treat white Americans differently than they treat black Americans. The Parkland High School killer, they followed him. They took him alive. The white man who just killed the people in the Asian spy in Atlanta, they took him alive. But yet, when you have a black person, Stefante, who ain't killed nobody, who ain't killed nobody. They shoot first and ask questions later. And then they come up with a way. I know this is extreme, but they come up with a way. They come up with a way to justify over and over again the killing of black people in America. Over and over and over again, they come up with a way to justify it. Where we're done accepting the justifications, America. As I said, everybody keeps saying, well, no matter how tragic it is and how unnecessary